Please, please. Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all on behalf of Ahmedabad Management Association. My name is Paresh Maniyar, and I'm a member of Program Committee of the Ahmedabad Management Association. I welcome you all to the book launch program and talk on the Indian Pharma 2030 Global Leadership with Foresight by author and speaker Mr. Suhail Abidi. Before we go ahead, I would like to introduce the author here. Then we will have a book launch or opening ceremony of the book, and then sir will talk about on the subject of the book, and then we will have a small 10 to 15 minutes question answer session where you can ask your questions, and then after the vote of thanks we will disperse. Correct? So this is the overall program. I am happy to introduce Mr. Suhail Abidi. Mr. Suhail Abidi is an MBA from the FMS University, that is Faculty of Management Study, University of Delhi, and a PG Diploma in Information Management from Leeds Polytechnic, UK. Please. Yeah. He has worked for over 35 years in various organizations such as Piramal Enterprise Limited, SR Limited, Reliance Limited, Saudi Ports Authority, the British Council, etc. And post-retirement, he has consulted for organizations such as CRISIL Limited, Kohinoor Group, and many other groups. For past 12 years, he is the research advisor of Government of Gujarat, AMA Center of International Trade, and editor of their monthly magazine of Foreign Trade Updates. The mandate of Government of Gujarat AMA or GOG AMA Center of International Trade is the capability development of the state's SME, that is small and medium enterprise industry, to increase the export. So far, Mr. Abidi has written over 65 export handbooks and conducted over 500 training programs throughout the Gujarat, as well as organized several export-related conferences and other events. Mr. Abidi is also a consultant at the Center of VUCA Studies, where the VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So, he is consultant as a Center of VUCA Studies of Amity University for past 6 years. And the institute is engaged in the research related to business foresight. Mr. Abidi has also co-authored for 4 books, and the VUCA company, the JICO in 2015, the VUCA Learner by SEG in 2018, and VUCA in Startups and Indian Pharma 2030. That is the today's book, when Mr. Abidi has written over 30 articles for various business media. With this small but very strong introduction of Mr. Abidi, I would, as per our philosophy of the Ahmedabad Management Association, I will felicitate them with a small token of the gift. Thank you, sir. Now we will have a launch of the book. Sign a copy for you. It is a successful book launch of Mr. Suhail Abidi. Now I am handing over the stage to Mr. Suhail Abidi, and he will give us a lot of information about the book, as well as how he has reached to this level of and share the knowledge of the book with us. Then we will have a question answer session. Sir, please.
Thank you, Mr. Maniar, for sparing your valuable time, and all of you to be here for the launch of my book. We will give a short insights into the contents of the book. And why I wrote was after VUCA, we felt at our Center for VUCA study that lot of changes have taken place in the business environment of the pharma industry, both in India as well as abroad. And many of these new developments brought both threats, challenges, as well as new opportunities for the industry. So we thought that we may write a book which defines these external environment so that existing companies as well as entrepreneurs can look at this industry with new light and find ways to enter it as well as to expand their businesses worldwide. So let us take first is that what is foresight? Foresight is not forecast. Like we have weather forecast that today there is a 30% chance of a rain today. So that is a forecast. Foresight is study of weak and early signals which are telling you about what future will bring. That means these are signals which normally you don't see in your day-to-day life, but those who are particularly looking for it, signals which are very faint, which are very far. For example, let us say that EV is a electric vehicle is now a product of the future. But can we say 10 years from now that it is lithium ion battery will only survive? Maybe it may convert into hydrogen, or maybe there are new technologies which are coming up, so which are very faint. But a business cannot only look at immediate business environment and invest. It must look at those things which are coming way into the future. Some of them may turn into business opportunities. Other may fall in the wayside because every research there is an element of experimentation. So that is what the study is of our, that it is a way to navigate in the ever-changing business environment. And there we see the political, economic, technological and social sources of information for new insights which can guide the businesses to navigate their future. Now, if you look at the Indian pharma, we have come a long way. A lot of achievements have been there. Today, we manufacture 95% of the medicines consumed in this country, within this country itself. We are the largest manufacturer and exporter of vaccines in the world. Even advanced countries could not produce a COVID vaccine. If you remember a few years back, you know. So our vaccines today inoculate about 65% of the world's children, and most of these children live in very poor countries, so they cannot afford the high priced vaccines. So our low priced vaccines, they are there, which are used in WHO programs and other programs for inoculation of children. If you see our vaccine cost and what is the vaccine cost of the government tender of USA, you see that it's almost about 15% of that cost. We sold the vaccine 2 doses at $272. The government procurement from Pfizer was $20, and we are talking about the same medicine. So that is the difference between India and other, that is low cost of production that has come because of our very large pharma industry. It is one of the few industries in India which can compete on its size. Normally our industries are smaller than China. If you take any industry, whether it is steel making or whether it is, they are much smaller. But here it is one industry where we, compete at par and at price and at quantity and availability. So largest manufacturer and exporter of generic medicines. We are in volume number 3, but value is number 14 because our price is low. So total, if you see the total value of the total production, it is much below than any of the innovator companies. Today, a innovator company like Pfizer or AstraZeneca or Lilly, their top medicines can cost up to $50,000 a year to for the customer. So those are the uh, those are the medicines which are now at the latest in the R&D. Because of R&D, costs are very high, so the prices have to be maintained at high level. This is the theory. As we will see, there are a lot of holes in this theory, and where we can stand. So we produce 40% of US and 25% of UK medicine. They all come from India. And same is the story in Canada and other places. And I spent 3 months in Canada, and I spent a lot of time in the pharmacies. Lot of medicines I saw which are made by Dr. Reddy's and Aurobindo Pharma, etc. in the pharmacy shops. AIDS now, it is no longer a very big, you can say disease, but 10 years back it was a really life-threatening disease. 80% of those drugs also come from. So our achievements have been very many, and you can see it is in our export figures also, that continuously we are exporting. Now and then some dip is there because COVID, etc. We did not export a lot of medicines, but overall there has been a continuous acceleration of 8 to 10% in the growth of the medicine. And same way, much of the 75% of our market consists of drug formulations. 18% consist of bulk drugs, which are also called APIs, and other smaller percentage goes to vaccine and other. So this is our achievement. So there are a lot of opportunities in the future. New medicines are coming off patent. As you know that we are selling those medicines where the originator company has lost its, or it has expired, the patents have expired, so anybody can manufacture them. And that has been our strength. Our strength is not developing new medicines, but bringing down the cost of medicine as soon as the, for example, a medicine like atorvastatin, which is Pfizer's biggest drug at one time, about $14 billion. One tablet was costing $4. In India, $4 can give you how many tablets? In India, atorvastatin cost about, even today, about 20 rupees. So that is the difference in price. I remember because lot of Indians who visit India, they carry back medicines to Europe and America. Because lot of medicines are cheap because of price control also. And in general, the prices are about 10% or 15% of the original pricing. So this is also continuing up to next 10 years. But proportional wise, now the chemical drugs, which are chemical, there are two types of drug, chemical and biological. Chemical drugs are like paracetamol, etc. They are made from chemical synthesis. Then biological drugs are those which come from fermentation. So chemical drugs now are less in numbers as of today than biological. Both are 50-50. 5 years back, chemical drugs were 70%, biological drugs, but now biological drugs are gaining, because for many new types of diseases, chemical drugs are not enough, like cancer, etc. They are using more and more biological drugs. So the cost is rising. So this is a opportunity also, that so many drugs will go off patent, and so our new companies can, or our pharma companies can take those markets. Threat is that fewer of such drugs will in future, after 10 years, there will be fewer drugs coming off patent. More of the biological drugs will come off patent. So the generic industry, which has pushed India into such prominence, in future that industry may not be so prominent for many reasons we will take up just now. And for that we have to be prepared what to do next. Now question is that so many new companies are producing drugs. Where will the API come from? API is the basic chemical which goes into the drug making. So this is a chemical industry, where lot of chemicals reactions takes place to produce. So there are today only two countries where APIs are produced. So India and China. So this is an area where we have to strengthen. Now lot of growth has been there in last, if you see after COVID, lot of growth has been there in the two areas which were not there earlier. GCC is Global Capability Centers. Earlier outsourcing as an industry came to India to take advantage of the cost benefit. Accounting work came to India. Lot of IT work came to India to take advantage of the low cost. But now the type of jobs which are coming to India, they are not the cost advantage, the lower end job. They are the R&D jobs, not only in pharma, in engineering also, in engineering design, development. And pharma also, lot of companies are setting up their center. Instead of taking people from here to US, they decided that it is better to bring the development center here. So almost 100 pharma companies today have their development centers in India. Why? Because India is the only country by 2030 which will have surplus in talent. Even China, Europe is already down. Japan is down. Korea, I think by another 50 years, it seems that their whole population will decline. Even today it is declining, but it will decline to such an extent that it will never be able to make up for it, whatever happens. After a certain ratio of fertility, if it goes down, you can never reach that population again. So we are there till 2050. China has already crossed there. Japan, Korea, Europe, America. America is still continuing because it used to get lot of immigrant people. But now with Trump, that is also going off. So those countries, they are having lot of shortage of trained, high level people who can enter into this kind of development, research development, drug development, engineering, aircraft, for example, designing, etc. So that kind of companies, they are coming to India. So today about 1600 companies are there. And it says that by 2026 about 2000 companies will come. In fact, every day or every week, one or two, I read in the newspaper that this company is opening up so about 100 companies are there in the life sciences area, which are there employing about 2.5 lakh people. So these are the highly trained people who are trained in the research of the multinationals, So that is the message, that these are the people who can move out and build up the Indian R&D of pharma. And same with contract development and manufacturing organization, that more and more work is being given out to contract manufacturing, so that the original company can put their efforts into R&D and into marketing. So also there are opportunities in EU's pharma strategy, which came about after the COVID, and many of the countries have less than 25% generic penetration. Now, the cost, since in EU, the cost of medical care is borne by the state. So they want more and more introduction of generic medicines. So there also, but they want the medicine to be produced on site. Because after COVID, India banned certain medicines, export of medicines. So all these countries woke up that we have to have certain amount of local manufacturing. So there also we have a opportunity to set up companies or buy companies in European countries and use the European Union's money to set up the businesses. They are putting up a lot of funds to companies which want to set up the plants there. So a lot of opportunities are there, but threats are also there. Biggest threat is that we have made our business success, country's pharma industry, by large scale growth of Me Too drugs, the common generic drugs. Now after COVID, many countries decided that we also must have a pharma industry. So a lot of countries in Africa, in Middle East, now they are setting up there. So after 10 years, you will find that the export of common drugs will not be there, or it will decline, and the profitability will not be there. So this is our success is tomorrow's threat. So many countries like Bangladesh, China, Turkey, Qatar, UAE, Saudi, Egypt, long list, they are building up their generic industry, and that means they will have less and less imports of medicine. After 2030, for example, Egypt will not import any medicine. Already Algeria is not importing any medicine for which it has a domestic manufacturer. And even before COVID, some countries like Kenya, they were considering banning or restricting import so that their local industries can develop. So a lot of threat is there. If you continue to do business as it is, you will find that after 10 years, there is no business. Then some other changes are taking place which are creating these markets. For example, Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, it is creating a single market of 1.2 billion people. Just like European Union is a market of 28 countries and 550 billion people. So this is creating a single market, is creating a market for larger scale plants within the African continent. So this is another reason why now more and more manufacturing is taking place, and it will accelerate in future. New technologies and vaccine production is also threatening our dominant position. Now one German company has introduced a vaccine in a box, vaccine production in containers. So they have put up the pilot plant in Ivory Coast. So another 2-3 years they will perfect the technology. Then you can produce the vaccine where it is required. So there is no need to send vaccines from here. It is very expensive to send. It requires cold chain, both at the land and in the air. The cost of transporting long distance vaccine is very expensive. So all these are threats. For example, I have just given one example. Bangladesh today, like India, it is now self-sufficient in 97% of its medicine. It does not import any medicine except the upper end latest medicines for cancer, etc., which are not which are still under patent protection. So now one company has built up after exporting, they have gone into overseas manufacturing. One company has built a plant in Kenya at a cost of $85 million, which you would never have expected 5 years back that a Bangladesh company would go out and set up a plant. But that is how they see the opportunity. For example, Jordan, etc., Turkey, they are all increasing their And every country which is setting up a plant, they have a vision of exporting, either neighboring countries or distant countries. So that all these activities, they reduce our ability to export generic drugs. Then threat is our poor quality, Of our 15,000 plants in India, only 10% or 15% this is not WGA, sorry, WHO GMP compliant plants. So 85% of the plants, they do not conform to any standard, globally recognized standard, So it has, in Cameroon last year, some 140 children died. In Central Asia also, people have died. That is due to the poor control over the export of medicines, So after all these things, then our regulatory authorities, they started checking the plants, and they found that 30% of the farms, they had substandard. They are selling substandard drugs, So this is creating a very bad image for the country. And what can we do? I will come to that later. India has moved down in the API world quality rankings from 5th to 7th position. So one of the reasons of another threat is our broken supply chain. As you read in the papers very often, that we are dependent on China for many of our drugs, bulk drugs and excipient. Excipients are those part of the tablet or capsule which do not take part in the cure of but they are required for manufacturing process, like forming a tablet or easy dispersion in the body. So these are products which are, so they are also, it's an industry where if we have to lead, we must have a large production of all these items. We cannot simply say that we are generic. When we are importing, then we are dependent on that country for price manipulation, for availability, like we are seeing in rare earth magnets, that one country now is determining who will get how much and at what price. So if we have to get out of that, then we have to start more and more manufacturing of our drugs, the bulk drugs. So at this moment, the Pharma target is 50 billion to 130, but our studies have shown that we can have API, we can have a target of 75 to 80 billion dollars, about 30 billion more than what the Pharma has. And we have given some reasoning for that, some facts and figures to that is more in the book. I cannot go in great detail here. So we can increase our revenue, both domestic and by expansion of our contract development manufacturing, greater acceleration in API production, and rapid growth of biosimilar drugs. And I will put some thoughts on that later on. So biological drugs from 30% in 10 years, it has gone to 15%, and that will rise. It will rise because now the ability for synthetic drugs or chemical drugs to deal with new diseases is diminishing. New diseases are requiring biological drugs like insulin in diabetes, like cancer treatment today is by and large through biological drugs. So that side will increase. So that will further put pressure on, if there are no drugs coming, so there will be no off-patent drugs. So after 20 years, no more drugs will be coming in the synthetic side. So that is also a faint signal, but it is there. Now this is an area where India should, or companies should, or many of the entrepreneurs should enter, that is the biosimilar industry. They should enter because the entry costs are high. So countries like Bangladesh, Jordan, etc., they cannot enter this industry. Even if they enter, it will be a small, because the cost of entry is 10 times more than the chemical drugs, even for a similar drug, you know. So big threat is there because of common drugs which are going out of patent. More and more countries are. At one time, India was the only country. If you look 20 years back, we were the only country which was manufacturing generic drugs among the emerging nations. Then more and more countries started producing because these are Me Too drugs. Any company with 50 lakh investment can produce these drugs. That is why we have about 20,000 companies in India producing medicines, you know. So because the technology is simple, the raw material is available, you can manufacture and sell, you know. So more and more, like EFTA will create condition for largest GCC, that is Gulf Cooperation, that is the Gulf countries, they will spend $12 billion in new capacity. So already the marketplace, our main market is already under threat in US. You must be reading in the paper that US government will put so many, such high tariffs on drugs. But it has not happened so far, but the government is threatening every now and then that it will put 200% tariff. So what will happen to the drug market, which is already there? Many of our companies like Aurobindo, Doctor, they have big investment in selling into USA. They have built up those markets in a big way. So these are the things which are putting pressure on the generic industry. So China is will be a very big threat. Now China was a competitor in the API market. China was never a competitor in the generics formulation market, the tablet, capsule, syrup, etc. It was never India was the biggest exporter and continues to be. But for some reasons, many reasons, China has decided to expand its overseas presence very much. Primarily, it is due to their internal, you may not know, but in China, in 2018, they brought about open tender for government procurement. That means any company in the world can take part in those tenders. Earlier, those tenders were limited to Chinese companies. But government there also wants to reduce its cost of their population is, the population is getting older. So Chinese government also wants, less expenditure on the medical side. So they have opened in 2000 that worldwide tenders will be there, with the result that the price of every drug has crashed between 50 to 90%. So many now companies are there who are having fat profits, Chinese companies. Now they are not having that kind of profit. So what they should do, they started moving abroad. So already for 3 Chinese plants are operating, and they are all very, very big, like everything which China does. It does on a big way. So 2 into 2 billion tablet capsule, and now about a few months back it opened. It is starting work on a new plant in Ivory Coast. 5 billion. I don't think any plant is there in India of this capacity. Then China is also helping Ethiopia in Pharma hub of Africa. It has built the Kilintro Pharma zone. So China cannot compete with India in the export market. So China is operating overseas plant. What its logic is that when the plants start operating, they will push the government into banning certain drugs. That we are now manufacturing, don't allow imports. So this is what my theory is, that this is what is going to happen. That is what Bangladesh did. So whatever Bangladesh did in the past, if you study, that is what other countries will do in future. The Chinese share in the global market has tripled in the same period as our share has doubled. So their growth is faster than our growth. Now African market will double in size. This is something which our manufacturers have not understood till now, that they think of the African market of old, small market, fragmented market. People do not. But Africa is changing beyond all. If you see by 2030, Africa will change. Many of the countries have world's highest growth rates, GDP growth rates. And by the time in another 2030, their per capita income will double, with the result that their demand for medicines will go up. Today, the demand is about $25 billion. We expect that it will go to $60 to $70 billion by 2030. It is not my assessment, it is from international consultants like McKinsey and company. They have said that minimum of 60, maximum. So almost it will more than double this demand, and much of that will come from local manufacturing. You see? So local manufacturing, government is giving many incentives. Some are giving that in government procurement we will give. Some are giving advance money to local companies that for government tenders take 25% advance, because local companies working capital problems are there. So the government is coming out to set up these industries. Low cost funding is available. This is something which very few people now know, that impact funding is a very major part of the global. Earlier it was loans from various multinational organizations like World Bank, etc. But now impact funding is people, wealthy people, they say that we don't want to give charity, like Bill Gates. We will invest in socially useful projects which can produce its profit and loss. But we will, to help it, we will give certain grant, we will invest in it, but it must benefit the lower section of the society. So that is impact investing, and some of the Indian companies have taken good advantage of that. We will see those examples. Then harmonization program that means several countries are coming together, that we will have the same. You don't have to register the product in every country. You register in one country, it will be common. So this is bringing down the cost of entry of drugs into a particular market. So all this is creating conditions for large scale local manufacturing. Now this is a Hester Biosciences. It is a Ahmedabad based company. It is into animal vaccines. So they set up this plant in Tanzania at a cost of $18 million. Out of that, the company invested $4 million. If you want more information on this, you go to YouTube. I have conducted an interview on behalf of AMA with the managing director of this company, Rajiv Gandhi. So you can get some more ideas about this project. So out of 18 million, the promoter put only 4 million. Rest of the 14 million came from grant, equity and loan from impact funders. So it is a very low cost funding. Now another company, Celon Pharma, it has joined hands with another group of impact funding. They have purchased a plant in Egypt. They will modernize that plant using the impact funding, and then they will sell low cost medicines throughout Africa. So these are the new developments which are taking place, which the entrepreneurs and the companies are not aware of, or if they are aware of, they have not taken much advantage of it. So this is the new way of funding in Africa and other poorer countries. This is the document which was produced by the Exporters Association of Chinese Pharma Exporter, 21 countries. They said that there are 21 countries in Africa where you can set up plants. Now earlier WHO had only said there are only 5 countries where you can set up plants in Africa. South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, 5 countries. So they said no, there are 21 countries. That is old. So this is a report which was created for the Chinese companies to enter Africa in a big way. So very few people in India are aware of this report, that how China is trying to take away a market where we have been the dominant exporters for long, you know. And it is also taking part of the national pharma plans. For example, this is Ethiopia's national strategy plan, how China is helping it to create its own industries, you know. So many these companies, Chinese companies, have started manufacturing on the African soil. India's companies have also invested, but they are smaller plants. Smaller plants will have no future in Africa. You know, this 250,000 capacity, 500,000 capacity, no. Minimum now is 2 billion capacity plants, because now you are controlling the market of the entire African continent. Now, Fosun, the biggest Chinese company, has put up a 5 billion tablet capacity plant at Ivory Coast, for which the Asian Development Bank has given 500 million loan. So this is the threat. If you see Angola, some of these countries, how China has taken away, increasing its share of the market in various countries, you know. So China growth 96% over 200,018 in Angola. Congo DR China growth to 84%. So like that in all the countries, because we have been sleeping. It is always happens with successful organizations, that when they find success, they think that that cheese will always be coming. So now that cheese is no longer coming. China saw this strategy problem in Indians, that we are now exporting. So they said, how do we counter India? We set up the plants there. We look at the Africa of the future, not so except for Cipla, no other country, no other big company in India has tried to judge the African market, you know. So World Investment Report also says that China total investment of 42 billion. Now they are diversifying into food and because now they see a middle class emerging, people who can buy their medicines, you know. Our hospital sector has seen that change faster. Dr. Agarwal's eye clinic, there are 7 hospitals working in, you know, in Africa, and I think in another 5 years about they will cover at least half of Africa. So healthcare sector has been able to see that change. Now Moderna is a vaccine company. They first tried to build up a plant, but they said no. Then China said, we will build the plant. So they are investing in that 500 million vaccine and pharma project in Kenya. So where now I have seen many companies are departing from Africa. Many of the multinational companies like GSK, etc. They do not have their office. They only sell through distributors. Who is entering? China is entering space which the multinationals are exiting from Africa. One Indian company has, this is Akums. Akums is a contract manufacturer. None of the Indian pharma companies have seen the opportunities, but this contract manufacturing Akums, they are setting up a plant in Zambia, where Zambian government is a partner, and they will take $25 million worth of medicines from, they will buy, this is part of the agreement, every year. So this is the new model of Africa venture. It is no longer make here, export there, but make there, export in the entire African continent, you know. See the amount of money that is entering into the pharma sector. $250 million has been committed by European Bank for Reconstruction Development, which I spoke just now, that Ceylon Pharma of Bangalore, they have using part of that money, they have and this money will also be used for setting up another plant in Tanzania. So Indians are being favored by impact funders because of our experience in technology and marketing of pharma drugs. So if any entrepreneur is there who has a good proposal, impact funders will look at it very favorably. Unlike African, because Africans do not have yet developed an entrepreneurial class, which in India is quite common. So number one thing we should do is develop our API industry. China is already, many of the API plants have closed down. That is one of the reasons for the rise in prices. It is not always the manipulation by the government, also because the less availability of API is there. Now so many countries in GCC, in Africa, in Middle East, etc. will produce generic. Where will they source the API from? The whole of Africa, there is no API industry. The 30 odd plants they are building, where there are only two sources left in the world, India and China. So between them, they control 50% of the market. That market will go by 2030 to 80%. 80% of the API market will be controlled by these two countries alone. So it is up to us, our entrepreneurs, our government, to ensure that we take a larger share of that market. So PE, the private equity has looked at this, that it is a very good, now future for Indian. So they will be investing about $4 to $5 billion in the API industry over the next 3-4 years. So if you look at the history, both Dr. Reddy's founder and Cipla founder, they started in API. They did not make their fortune in the generic industry. They started with API, and Dr. Reddy improved the drug so much that it was cheaper and better than the Italian drug which was being imported at that time. So we have that kind of history and that kind of technical capability. So if you want an API industry, even before that there is some other industries which we have to capture. They are called key starting materials. So most of them are chemicals, phenol derivatives, cyclohexanone, etc. and chloroacetic acid. These are the products. If you do not capture this market and only take API, then China will again bully you into buying these things. So if you have to build up a API, then you have to build from the entire value chain. So today we have many of these penicillin and other antibiotics. India government has set up 3 API parks. One will be near Bharuch, one is in API and other. So they will most probably will be producing these kind of high volume antibiotics. We were self-sufficient in antibiotics till about 20 years back. But then those companies which are government owned, IPCL and Indian, so government did not invest in those companies. So over a period, they lost their, and when they lost, then Chinese, at that same time, Chinese were increasing their capacities. So with the result that the entire industry of antibiotics, they were wiped out from our country. AstraZeneca, Pfizer, they are moving out of. So far they have given only to Chinese companies because our companies are too small to cater to their requirements. So but hopefully in another 2-3 years time, more and more multinational companies will give out their APIs to contract manufacturing, and that is where our big opportunity lies. So this is there is a misnomer that Chinese are very advanced in API. That is not true. Chinese are only big producers. They have large plants. Technologically, India is much superior than China in this area. So this news item I took from China Daily. One API manufacturer is telling and China Daily never says anything pro India. If you look at China Daily, it is owned by the Chinese Communist Party. They are always venomous and always negative information. But here they are, saying so much positive that India, they send their APIs to India for final processing before they are sent out to European and American customers. So it shows that technologically we are very much advanced. Our only problem is our plants are smaller. We do not invest in larger capacities, you know. So this is the big market which we can capture, and if it is up to the entrepreneurs, the country, and lot of entrepreneurs can enter this market. We have a very flourishing specialty chemical industry which is producing something like 80,000 products in India, and many of these products we are the leading supplier in the world. Many products, many of our small, and these are all in SME sector. So there are many products where we are the 60% to 70% control the whole world market. So it is not so that we cannot produce API, which is also a part of all these reactions, and all these processes are known to we have a very good supply of PhDs, and so there is no reason why. Only thing is that where the market is, what is the pricing, the commercial considerations, and the availability of funds for capital. So for SMEs, that is always been a big problem. How to obtain funds for capital, for setting up the plants and for your capital needs. Future also requires smaller API manufacturing, because personalized medicine is coming, where the API, the medicine will be determined by your personal. As you know, if you take a medicine 10 mg, 6 mg may be absorbed, 4 mg may be taken out. So the medicine is not tailored for each individual. Somebody has a weight of 90 kilos, other person has a weight of 70 kilos. Absorption. So the future is coming where each medicine will be tailored to the individual. So you will require less of medicines. That means less of API will be required. Then technology is changing from batch process to continuous process. I don't want to go too much deeper into it, but continuous manufacturing is earlier known for large plant like methanol plants, or refinery where night and day you are manufacturing, there is never any. But pharma products and other specialty chemical products, they have always been manufactured in batch process. Each batch is manufactured separately. But now technology has come, which one or two companies, even in Pune I have heard, they are now putting continuous manufacturing plants for smaller products. So even Dr. Reddy's has invested in some research project for this purpose. So these are all various things that the 40% of the merchant market, that is what we have to capture. The greater we can capture, and I don't see any technical reasons for this, for not capturing. The reasons are more commercial and availability of funding for SME industries. So next big area is contract development and manufacturing. This is a less than 10 years old area where we are manufacturing or development. Earlier it was a contract manufacturing that we are manufacturing for other customers. Now it has moved into contract development, contract research also. More and more pharma companies are parceling out work to many companies on contract basis, Now this is this news came only 2 days back. It's not in the book, that Pharma Solution in New Amsterdam, multi-million-dollar contracts for contract manufacturing of a fixed oral, a particular drug, So this is the kind of, because the drug maker does not want to get into manufacturing because he needs lot of money for development of new drugs. So he wants to cut out all the other things and put his focus into development of new drugs. So there is a big market for these activities for new entrepreneurs to enter. If you are a technical person, you can enter these at low cost. It is not a single that you are a contract manufacturing who is developing the A to Z. So there are all distinct ways to go into particular part of the, and I will show you some of those some of those activities. So in our opinion, that we can have a contract development and manufacturing of $100 billion by 2030 in so many different fields. This is our own assessment based on our Foresight models, and with rigorous facts, etc. If you read in the books, we have tried to reason out why we come to this figure. So there is a huge market available to Indian entrepreneurs. Then drug development also, there are huge market, as I said, that so many over 1,600 GCCs are operating. Over 100 GCCs are operating only in healthcare sector. And you see from 2020 to 25, how fast that graph is going. How many centers are entering into India? Up to 2020, a few companies. But now they are seeing more and more, and by 2030, it will accelerate because there are no trained and people left in the Western world. People are not there who can take up. So only India is the only talent surplus country. Neither China, nor Japan, nor Europe, nor USA may still have. But all these are relying on India to develop products for them, So this is a very big market because I see over 1.6 million people are working here. Because these are the people who are working at the top level of scientific discovery and technology. So they are the people who will enter into market tomorrow and as a startups or as working in pharma companies to take up their developmental work. They will not continue to work in GCCs. These are the people who will, these PhDs, they will come out after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years experience, and they will set up their own industry. So I see big future for those who will come out of. So this is a godsend opportunities for India to enter into the higher end of the technology. Especially now that IT is taking more and more part of the drug development process. And India IT is much, much more advanced than other countries. And here also many foreign companies are putting up pharma related IT projects like IBM. They are putting up pharma related IT projects to work from Hyderabad, So these are the, now out of earlier one, now 9 NIPERs, that is National Pharma colleges are there. So we hope that this will lead to some sort of a development, in the new drug discovery process. So the biggest our problem is that India is not a member of the global regulatory. This is a new thing which is coming, pharma inspection cooperation. I'll go a little faster now. Now it is probably getting a very boring and process oriented. But this is very important that India is not a part of global inspection cooperative scheme. Now what happens that if US wants medicine from India, US inspectors will come and inspect our factories. Here it is your regulatory system which is inspected, not individual factories. So aim is to have all countries should have a common regulatory system. Now India is not a member of it. Last year China also applied for it, and US when it applied, it took them 6 years to get membership. It is so stringent, and so the process is very stringent. Only 70 countries today have. Now what is the advantage? That if you are a member of this organization, then a product which is registered in this country, it will be considered registered in all countries. That means if a member country in Australia wants to import generic products, it will import from Indonesia rather than India, because that is part of the, and so the cost of registration is low, and these are Me Too products. There is no difference in product X or Y. So that is the advantage, and that is a very, very big, I would say a big risk India is taking by not becoming a member. Why it is not a member? Because 85% of our factories will close down. As I said, who are not WHO, GMP compliant factories, they will close down. So it is a good for the customer that only quality drugs should be made. All these companies today, anybody who has 20 lakh rupees can set up a pharma company. गवर्नमेंट टेंडर में अपना बी ग्रेड माल बेचो, छोटे शहरों में सी ग्रेड माल बेचो. आप देखो छोटे शहरों में, यू सी द क्वालिटी ऑफ ड्रग्स. आई हैव फर्स्ट हैंड एक्सपीरियंस. they reduce the active ingredients, or they don't have it at all. Even my wife, who is an eye specialist, one medical rep came to her. उसने कहा कि मैडम फलानी GSK का ड्रग लिखो. तो उन्होंने कहा आपकी कंपनी भी तो बनाती. कहती नहीं, दैट इज नॉट प्रॉपर ड्रग. बेच रहा है मगर अपनी फैमिली के लिए नहीं यूज करेगा. So this is the quality of drugs which are in big cities you don't find so much, but as you move into the smaller cities you will find more and more substandard drugs. So that will be the advantage for India, is to improve the quality of drugs for its own citizens as well as for export. If you are not a member, it's a big risk in future. Today it is 70 countries, tomorrow it will be 100 countries. At least 20 countries are already waiting for, they have already applied, but takes 5 to 6 years for the application to mature. So by another 2030, you will find 100 countries are members of this. So it will have lot of difficulty in exporting the products. The herbal is a very big market. I don't want to go into too much detail. Phytochemicals, which are chemicals which are produced from, most common is morphine and codeine, but there are huge number of drugs, and we are sitting on a treasure house of plants, but this requires research to take the chemicals out of it, like castor seeds. Castor oil also has a chemical called renolinic acid, which is used in a large number of products, including pharma products. So this is also a very big, opportunity waiting to happen. The cannabinoids are also a very big opportunity. It is, we are already number 2 in the market, but other countries are like Australia, Turkey, etc. They are increasing their supply very fast. Biosimilar is the next big, the biological drugs, but its entry is more difficult. If you spend 20 crores to develop a generic drug, a biological drug may cost up to 200 crores. As Biocon example has shown. So that means fewer competitors will enter. So if you make a success here, price erosion is less here. In chemical drugs, price erosion is up to 90% within 6 months of its release. But here, even after 2-3 years, the price erosion is not more than 20-30%, because the whole world there may be only 5, 6, 7, 8. Unless generic drugs, where in 1 year you may have 100 to 200 manufacturers. of a drug. But here, so that is the advantage, but then capital cost is high, R&D costs are high, people requirement is high, knowledgeable people and all that thing. So, but the its a cost is very high even in, for example, a drug like filgrastim, a cycle, a cost may cost 1 lakh. How many Indians can afford it? Even at this level of pricing, which is 1/10 of what is available in the US market. So at 1,50,000 rupees, how many Indians? So its pricing has to be brought down. Then government has to intervene in giving opportunities for more companies to enter the field. Only competition can reduce the price, you know. So these are the various strategies. Number one is manufacturing of common drugs overseas. There is no other way to manage it. If we continue to have export from here, you will continue to lose more and more markets in future. You know, already common manufacturing zone has been established in Mexico by 6 Indian companies, but that model should be increased to other countries also. You know. This is a area where FDA off patent drugs but no generics. About 500 drugs are there for which there is no generic. Why? Because there must be some difficulty in manufacturing or development of the generics. But Indian companies can enter because we have more experience in, for example, injectable drugs. You know, we have more experience in, now more and more companies are entering into the injectable drugs market. You know, so this is a area where the new entrepreneurs or acquisition companies should look at which are these drugs, what is this market, and how we, because here the competition is less, because apart from the originator company, there is no other company to. So if you are number 2, the price erosion will be much less, you know. Then UK pharma strategy, companies should study. There is a lot of opportunities in that. I wrote an article for that also in Express Pharma. Those who are interested, they can see what Indians can take advantage of the UK pharma strategy. So these are the various elements of the contract development, and you can enter in many of, no need to enter from A to Z. Different companies can enter into different aspects of this, you know. Global clinical trials is another area where Indian companies can enter. Today we are doing only 4% of the global trials, and even if you increase it by to 4 to 10%, it will increase the revenue by $8 billion. So the trials which were going to Russia, which were going to Ukraine, they are available now, because those countries, nobody is going for clinical trials. That was 6% of the market. This is last, a very big market is there, which is opening up, is in the Chinese cross-border e-commerce. Some hundreds of OTC drugs, over-the-counter drugs, they are made available for selling through e-commerce in the Chinese market. But Indians have not yet been, they have derived any benefit out of it, because they are either not aware, or they, and it is easier to enter that. If you want to register a drug in China, it will take 2 to 3 years, even 4 years. But here only 2 to 3 months. Because if a OTC is in India OTC, it is also OTC. OTC means over-the-counter drugs, which you can buy without prescription. So if it is an OTC in India, if it is an OTC in China, you can enter this market without much of regulatory. So these are the various, these are the main drug disease areas where these drugs are there, and the growth is, you can say, about 120% growth is there in last 5 years. And each Chinese can buy $3,782 per annum from CBEC, all products, including OTC. So this is a huge market which Chinese government is making available for imported products to sell in the Chinese market. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, I have taken a little long time, and but I hope some of you will take home some insights and start something new. Thank you very much.
Thank you for a lot of deliberation and very nice in-depth deliberations on the subject. Yeah, we are very much thankful to all of you for attending and sparing your time and attending such a nice deliberations. We are, as a Ahmedabad Management Association, very much thankful to Mr. Suhail Abidi for deliberating such a nice subject and at such length. And we are also very much, I am also very much thankful to all the staff of Ahmedabad Management Association who have helped to make this program very successful and motivated us. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.